SmartB Sports Update Podcast is brought to you by Optimum CBD. For all your rest and recovery needs, CBD products are your best bet. Go to OptimumCBD.store to order now. Free delivery on all orders over $99. You must be over 18 to order. I use Optimum CBD products personally for my rest and recovery. I train 6 days a week in Jiu-Jitsu, as you've probably heard on the SmartB Sports Update Podcast. I teach, I train, I compete. And without Optimum CBD products, I wouldn't be able to do it. Optimum CBD for all your rest and recovery needs.
It's Origin week and there's very little Origin news because once again Lachlan Galvin has taken all of the headlines.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a lot of Origin news in the couple of days before the game anyway. It
used to be.
It's more after the game, I think, like coming out of the game that you get the news out of Origin.
We got some criticism for our comments last week about how we don't care as much about Origin as the regular season. And people were like, the typical, they're not a true fan if they don't care about Origin. Well, what is there to care about? If there was anything to care about, there would be news, but there's nothing to care about.
We are true fans because we're worried about the impact that it has on the NRL season, which, as we said last week, it impacts a third of the NRL season, the state of origin. So, that makes us true fans because we don't want to see this third of the season ruined by state of origin all the time.
Like you just said, there's no news about Origin. Well, there's one.
Yeah, I thought we should talk about one story.
Yeah, there's only one.
But apart from that, it's really only NRL.
There used to be all banter. There used to be things. Now there's no news. But yeah, Lachlan Galvin reportedly set to sign with the Bulldogs. And I was telling you before, I got a SMS, a message, an hour before all the news broke. Yesterday.
Yeah,
it was yesterday, right? Every day melds into one.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
And my understanding, I don't really understand how soft cap and salary cap, all this nonsense works, but from what I can understand and what I was told, the Bulldogs simply had more money in their soft cap this year to be able to manage Lachlan Galvin this year, so he's getting, Bulldogs and Parramatta both offered $750 a year from next year. But this year, Parramatta was only able to offer around $500 and Bulldogs were able to offer around $750. And so it was never about money, but it ended up being about money. Still, though, if it was about money, why didn't he stay at the Tigers? Because Isaac Moses hates Benji Marshall.
That's what's so bizarre about this. The guy is only 19 years old. That's what I don't get. He's 19. Wouldn't it have just been easier to he was only under contract until the end of next year. Well, that's only 18 more months. Wouldn't it have just been easier to just see out your contract and then assess your options from there? He's done all this damage to his reputation. What, just for the sake of not being on 250 this year and 350 next year, being on 750. He's done all that damage to his reputation just for the sake of that. And not only that, as you just said, he could have stayed at the Tigers on a $6 million deal. So all this hassle, he could have just seen out this year on 250, next year on 350, and then taken up a $6 million contract. But he's gone through all this heartache, all this damage to his reputation, just to get on $750,000 for 18 months.
Well, I think in the words of the great Tuvs, Jeff Tuvey, there's got to be an investigation. You have Phil Gould using the media to openly discuss contracts about players who you're not allowed to talk directly to.
Yeah.
You have Parramatta making comments to the media, which aren't as prominent as Phil Gould being able to do it. I know you're a Bulldogs fan, but it's... Even Bulldogs fans,
I get it.
Even Bulldogs fans can see past their bias on this. Parramatta making statements to the media like, yes, we would be interested in Lachlan Galvin. You have Isaac Moses manipulating a lot of things across media, multiple clubs, stuff like that, to achieve this result of a player getting out of his contract 1.5 years early. When you're not he wasn't supposed to be able to talk to anyone until November 1 this year for 2027. Okay. The Bulldogs announced on Friday that they had basically given him permission to negotiate with other clubs, and on Sunday a deal is done.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. Like, we talked about it before where that kind of stuff happens all the time, but this is the most blatant one I've ever seen. There was the Fisher-Harris one when he moved from Penrith to the Warriors that looked exactly as sus, but by all reports, that was the most above-board thing in the entire universe. It just looked really sus, and Fisher-Harris was willing to take anything to do anything, basically. The Panthers approached the Warriors about taking him as opposed to the other way around because they were being so nice to him. Man, what a mistake that's proven this year. But the NRL needs to look into this nonsense and do something about it because, like Thursday, Friday was the announcement that he's free to look at other clubs, and suddenly the Bulldogs are able to work out and offer their deal and get signatures most likely. Now, the SMS I got said Lachlan Galvin is expected to report the Bulldogs training on tomorrow. So I got it yesterday afternoon. But that's not the true part actually. Apparently he's going to be there next week because the contracts aren't officially signed and they have to be registered with the NRL and all that kind of stuff. But the NRL shouldn't register it because it's the most suspect thing in the entire universe.
It just means you can't take anything Phil Gould says seriously anymore. Everything he says, you just go, all right, well, there's a hidden agenda behind it with literally everything he says publicly. So there's just no point in taking him seriously anymore. Yeah, well, everything is clouded by his own hidden agendas.
You'd have to think, as the media boss, what's he on Channel 9, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Channel 9. Probably why I don't see anything of what he says.
Boycott,
Boycott Channel 9, hashtag boycott Channel 9.
Yeah.
Surely the media boss has to sit there and go, well, he lied and ruined the reputation of, damaged the reputation of whatever show he says whatever he's on. That show, whatever Phil Gould talks on that show, and, it could just be all lies. And then the NRL should look at the integrity of it all. They're all about integrity. They have an integrity unit to investigate players who punch their friends in the head, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, that's on everyone.
But they have integrity units to investigate this stuff, and this is exactly like what bad integrity is.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that. Galvin was under contract until the end of 2026. So he wasn't allowed to talk to other clubs until November 1 this year, right?
For 2027.
For 2027, yeah. So keeping all that in mind, all those comments from Gould, all that nonsense, how he was saying, Lachlan Galvin's the best junior I've ever seen. Lachlan Galvin's going to go on to make more money than any other player I've in the history of the game. So all that stuff essentially was Phil Gould in code talking to Lachlan Galvin and his management through the media. He was talking in code there. So that's breaking the rules. He wasn't allowed to do that until November 1 this year.
And that one, that's why there's a lot of lack of integrity to it. And then when you look at the Parramatta one, they made a statement to the media blatantly saying they're not as obviously sophisticated as Phil Gould, right? They made a statement a couple of months ago saying yes, they would be interested in Lachlan Galvin. If that's not talking to the player, then what is? Okay, Phil Gould's manipulation of the media, of the Tigers, of Lachlan Galvin, even of Isaac Moses, of Parramatta, of everyone is blatant.
He's Phil Gould spinning it now, saying, because circumstances change, that's why I changed my mind. No, so you just don't take any notice of anything Phil Gould says ever again. Don't take any notice of it.
I like how
because it's all garbage.
It's so funny. Like that, it was like a good response basically to justify his nonsense, right? Because he had to come up with something, and
he'll just say that every time.
It seems pre-prepared.
Yeah. Every time he backflips and says one thing and does another, he'll just say that every time. He'll say, circumstances change.
That's why I like it, because it's giving him an out for everything.
Yeah. So anyone who points out his own contradictions, he'll just say, circumstances change.
It's giving him an out. It's very clever. So, there's no denying he's a clever person, but everything about the situation has just gone against everything, all the rules, There was always rumours that Parramatta and Galvin or Isaac Moses had agreed to terms prior to this Phil Gould manipulating everyone in the media, which, I really think the Tigers should have sat him out. Honestly, I just think the Tigers should have sat him out. They should have kept him on the books for the next year and a half and just sat him out. Isaac Moses would have initiated his bullying lawsuit. Mm-hmm. They probably would have had to settle that, because it's always in the rule. That's employee.
That's another thing I hate about it is that there was no bullying. This was all just. It was all just conveniently made up to get him out of the contract. There was no real bullying there. And so, in the end, the manager's got what he wanted, and he's won out of it, which I hate. I can't stand it. That he's made such a fuss about these bullying accusations that the club have felt like they've been backed into a corner and they've had no choice but to surrender and let him go.
Well, now that's further derail the Tigers season, right? But then you move over to the Bulldogs, and what's he even going to do there?
This is a problem. So. We're not going to read... I mean, they're on top of the ladder. They're flying at the moment. We're not going to read anything into that loss to the Dolphins, are we? They had Stephen Crichton, Kurt Mann and Max King all out because of Origin. They had Jacob Preston and Satili Tupanua suspended. They had Jacob Carraz, Jamin Salmon, Daniel Saluka Fafita and Jack Todd all injured. So they've got 9 players. That's more than half their team out of that game. We're not going to go... There were some commentators on the weekend who were saying, "Oh, they were terrible." Well, yeah, maybe because more than half their team were missing, they were terrible.
That's the Phil Gould tweet in which he listed 12 players that were unavailable. Right? You have to name an 18-man side, so they had to name 18 players. There's 30 people in their top squad, so they had to name the only 18 players that had left. Now, when I used to play Rugby League 2 on Xbox with my friend, that would happen to us sometimes, and we just have to name the 18 players that were left. We'd have suspensions, injuries, and stuff like that. And it made your team crap because you don't have any. You have to play, back rowers as prop or at least they had their hooker. At least Reed Barney was in, but you had to play, wingers out of position. You had to play like everyone all over the place to try and build a team. They had to manufacture a team on the league. It's irrelevant. But that just highlights again how the Origin has ruined regular season football.
Yeah. 100%. What this could disrupt their charge to the premiership this year. This could disrupt their entire season. What are they thinking? They're on top of the ladder. They're flying. They're 2 points clear of the team coming second. They've got a bye this week, so that will continue. They'll still be 2 points clear in a week's time. So what on earth is this all about? Even if they think that Toby Sexton isn't worth paying $1 million a year for, well, that doesn't mean you go out and buy Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah, well, their spine is keeping them firmly meshed at the entrenched at the top of the ladder, right? That has been all year. What they do, a 6-game winning streak.
They've lost 2 games all year, and one of them they didn't have more than half their team.
They were missing, and then they've gone and signed a 5/8 where they already have a 5/8 who's one of their best players in Matt Burton. So they don't want to re-sign Toby Sexton apparently because he's asking for too much money and it's becoming more and more like believable that he's asking for over $1 million. So what are they going to turn Lachlan Galvin into a halfback?
Yeah, so they're going to turf out Toby Sexton, who's the halfback in the team that's coming first on the ladder. They're going to turf him out. And they've gone and signed a player who has the following CV, right? Last year, in his first year in first grade, his team came last. This year, in the first half of the season, his team's shown significant improvement, but all him and his manager have done is tried to undermine the team. From the start of the season, I'll tell you why the Tigers aren't going better than what they are now. It's because of Lachlan Galvin and his manager. Yeah. That's also his resume in the game. Lachlan Galvin's resume in the game is... First season, wooden spoon. Second season, do everything to disrupt my team and have them struggle more than what they should because me and my manager are going to do everything we can to disrupt the season.
Second season, get Jerome Luai, known premiership winner, Origin winner, Samoan representative over to run the team and go way better on the back of, in spite of Lachlan Galvin and his manager. Just think about that, right? The Tigers recruited probably better than anyone. Probably just be on the back of Jerome Luai. Like if you were to apply a point system, the Jerome Luai purchase was probably the best purchase of the year. In theory and on paper, their team is way better than it was the last 3 years. they're performing better than they have the last 3 years, in spite of Lachlan Galvin and Isaac Moses and the typical unnamed source who wants to remain anonymous, blah blah, at the nonsense at the Tigers. And then the Bulldogs have gone and signed Lachlan Galvin for $750,000 a year. What does he bring to the team? Yeah,
so he's been rewarded for trying to bring down his club. He's been rewarded so he's gone from a team that's wooden spooners last year, going a bit better this year, but he's been rewarded with a contract of the team on top of the ladder. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. And who does he think he is saying, Benji Marshall can't coach? Benji Marshall's a legend of the game, premiership winner, World Cup winner, Golden Boot winner, NRL Hall of Famer, and he's some 19-year-old and he comes out and says, Benji Marshall's got no idea, Benji Marshall can't coach. And before people start saying, give him a break, he's young, he's 19, I don't see any other 19-year-olds disrupting their club like he's done this year.
How would he know? I think we talked about it before. How many coaches has he had? He's had one coach.
And he's an expert on what makes a great coach.
And then, honestly,
and he's done huge damage to his reputation. That's the thing. This has come at a cost. This whole circus charade has come at a cost because he was going to be brought into New South Wales camp this series. Danny Weidler reported it yesterday. He was going to be brought in to have a look at the New South Wales setup. But that's not happening now because they're not happy with how he's conducted himself at the Tigers, and they don't want the disruption to their camp, and you can't blame them. If I was Laurie Daly, I would have done the same thing. I would have said, no, you're not coming in, we don't need that distraction. Yeah. So it's already having an impact on his reputation.
And then how do the Bulldogs know that he's going to go to the Bulldogs and not behave the same way?
That's the other point. How do they know he's not going to do the same thing? He's already done it to his first club. What, do they think he's not going to do it to them?
Yeah, well, he's going to go there, and what if he's not happy and he thinks Cameron Ciraldo can't coach? Or what if Isaac Moses doesn't like Cameron Ciraldo or someone else on the team has a falling out? I don't see it. I don't see why the Bulldogs are signing. I've seen people commenting, they're going to move Burton to fullback or Crichton to fullback, or neither of those guys are a fullback. I'm just getting flashes of when the one game where Braithen Astor played fullback and looked like a complete fool at the Roosters when Brad Fittler moved into fullback to try and get him into the game more. He looked like a complete fool because he was out of position, they kept letting the ball bounce, stuff like that. You can't turn from a 5'8" or a centre into a fullback tomorrow. It's just not possible. And then, you got Toby Sexton is the halfback, Matt Burton is a 5'8". Lachlan Galvin is a 5'8". Yeah. There's so much of 5'8" that Jerome Luai was brought in to play 7. Right? Like Jerome Luai, who is a number 6, a multi-time premiership winning Origin winner, winning 5'8", was brought in and moved to 7 because Lachlan Galvin is so much of a 5'8". And where are they going to play him? He'll be on the King's birthday match apparently. That'll be his debut game. I don't know when that is.
Yeah, that's on that Monday. So they got the bye this week. So it'll be the following Monday. Yeah. So I think.
Well, we'll know where they're going to play him.
So I think that'll be 2 weeks from today. Yeah.
We'll know when they're going to play him there, but it's just bizarre. It's just a bizarre circumstance, and I really think the NRL would. They shouldn't register his contract.
Yeah. So they're on top of the ladder. They're 2 points clear on top of the ladder. And they've decided that they don't want anything to do with the halfback that's got them there, and instead they're going to pull a half out of a club that's struggled in his first season, won the wooden spoon, and that he's done everything he can, as I said, everything he can to disrupt their season. They're going better this year, but him and his manager have done everything to disrupt that. So their big bright spark move when they're on top of the ladder is to shun the halfback who's got them there, and to bring in a half who, as I said, has one wooden spoon to his name and has half a season of ruining his club's campaign to his name. That's his resume in the game so far. That's his resume. So that's their big, smart, bright spark move.
That doesn't make any sense. Honestly, I'm just really curious as to where they're going to play him. The only thing I can think of really is they're going to try and turn him into a halfback. That's better than moving. You'd have to think that's better than moving Burton or Stephen Crichton to fullback. Surely moving a half to the other half is better than moving a centre or a 5/8 to fullback.
Yeah, it could, and this is the thing, and you know they look like a happy team as well. They look like a harmonious group. This is the sort of thing that, you know, the players might get upset that they're shunning Toby Sexton. Toby Sexton might be really popular. They might be upset that the club are shunning him for a guy who has, you know, basically knifed his previous club and done everything possible to bring his previous club down.
You'd have to think if I was Toby Sexton, I'd be seeking an immediate release and going to the Dragons.
Well, I'll tell you what, that might be an option for the Dragons, right?
Yeah, well, they need a half.
Yeah. They'd be looking at that, wouldn't they? I would have thought.
I think every club right now that needs a half is looking at what's happening there, because if they do, well, the Bulldogs do axe Toby Sexton, there's a bunch of clubs that are going to be looking for the, you know.
I think this signing at Galvin confirms that they're not going to be, they're not going to re-sign Sexton.
There's, you know, obviously Melbourne don't need Toby Sexton, right? You know.
But I'll tell you what, if Dylan Brown can get 1.3 million at Newcastle, yeah, clubs are going to be lining up for Toby Sexton.
Parramatta needs a half now. Dragons need a half. Oh, you know, we've talked about that many times before. There's only a few clubs that have the perfect halves combos, right? You know, like the Brisbane obviously have 3 quality halves that they can play.
Yeah.
The Melbourne have their halves.
Yeah, look, I just can't believe, look, how impatient of Galvin to put on this, to do what him and his manager have done. They can't even wait 18 months and see out the contract. At which time he could have got a $6 million contract at his existing club, or even if he didn't want to stay there, would have had multiple offers from other clubs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, given his resume so far. But that's what would have happened, right? So I just don't understand why, or it's just so impatient on their part to you know, make these bullying accusations, do what they can to get themselves out of the contract. They can't even wait 18 months, him and his manager.
Well, it's most a show.
It's an incredible show of impatience.
That Isaac Moses and Benji Marshall don't get along, so Isaac Moses is using his power to... Like, the guy is not... I fully got to remember to refer to him as Buzz Rossford does. Twice a registered player agent Isaac Moses. So
don't players who are with Isaac Moses realise that if you go along with his antics, it's going to destroy your reputation. It's already cost Lachlan Galvin a foot in the door with the New South Wales Origin team. There's already been damage to his reputation, and he's only 19 years old. Players have got to be wary of this. They've got to be mindful of this. Yeah, he might make you more money in the short term, but he's going to do long-term damage to your reputation.
He's in danger of being Cherry Evans. Remember, Cherry Evans went into State of Origin limbo after he did that backflip on the Titans. Like, that's the kind of thing that happens. He worked his way back because, I mean, there was Jonathan Thurston and Darren Lockyer ahead of him and so on and so forth, but there was a whole thing about how even like Queenslanders just booed Cherry Evans, and that's what Lachlan Galvin is to New South Wales people now. Like, nobody's looking at this favourably and going, I think Lachlan Galvin did the right thing here. Yeah. There's not a person in the world who thinks that except for Isaac Moses and Lachlan Galvin.
And does it really put the Bulldogs in a better position? I don't think that it does.
I don't think it puts them in a weirder position.
That's the thing. Are their chances increased as a result of this, of winning the premiership this year? I don't think that they are.
No, I don't think so. But I wouldn't say it's definitely decreased the chances.
But you wouldn't say that it's increased.
No, like it's not that's why I like the positioning is going to be really interesting to see, like, what they're going to do. I think if they drop Sexton, it sends ripples through the team that no one is safe if a 19-year-old idiot comes on the market and he can come and take his... Because all of those Bulldogs players you've got to remember, that not many of them are superstars who can dictate terms, right? They're all getting paid what they're worth and performing. There's a few of them, like Crichton, obviously, Kikau, Burton, probably But the rest of them, they're up and comers and stuff like that. So all of them are easily replaceable if someone else comes on the market at a good price, and they can just be dropped, no matter how well they're going. Like the fact that they're on top of the ladder is irrelevant. Tomorrow you could drop Max King if Payne Haas was suddenly available, they'd get rid of Max King. Doesn't matter how well they're performing. So. Well, Payne Haas is old. He's not really a lock on Galvin. He's worth the money. If Payne Haas became available, every team would be like, bro, I'm dropping our best prop for that guy. But you know what I mean? Like, if anyone can come on, any young up-and-comer comes on the market, over at the Bulldogs now, all players would be sitting there going, man, my position's actually not safe.
Have they not thought about, well, if he's been a disruptive influence at one club, well, maybe he'll do that to your club as well?
If he doesn't like the hard training.
He's only 19 and he's already done it to one club.
Yeah. Like, what if he goes there and doesn't like the hard training? Because, by all reports, Benji Marshall isn't the hardest taskmaster, but Cameron Serrato is.
But that's what, what I really hate about this is that some punk 19-year-old has just come in and said, I don't like this coach, and then he's been rewarded with, he's been allowed to get out of his contract, because of his manager's antics, and he's been rewarded with more money at another club. A 19-year-old has been allowed to just say, I don't want this coach, I don't want to be here, I'm getting out of my contract early, I'm going to make more money somewhere else.
He doesn't like the coach who, by all reports, is like the most relaxed coach with the least difficult training regime, and he's going to go to a place with a not relaxed coach with one of the most difficult training regimes. How much is he going to like that coach?
And that's the thing. This is a guy who, alright, he's talented, but again, the wooden spoon last year, and he's done everything possible to ruin the Tigers' season this year. That's his NRL career so far. So they've gone to all this trouble just to sign him.
Yeah.
And they're going to let go of their existing halfback, who's got them to the top of the ladder this season.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. But, let's see what happens in 2 weeks. It could be by the end of the year it's the most genius signing ever, but I still wouldn't like it. The entire thing, I still think there needs to be investigation. I really think the NRL shouldn't register his contract and the Tigers should sit him out for 2 years.
Yeah.
Just to punish Isaac Moses, mainly.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that happen. I guess from the Tigers' point of view, they probably just thought, oh, look, this just is not worth the hassle and just let him go. But I'm not saying that, I still don't like it, though. Yeah. I don't like it how they've just been backed into a corner and have felt like that, the only thing we can do here is let him go. Because essentially what they've done is they've let him win.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I hate it.
They've set a precedent.
Yeah, they've rewarded this terrible behaviour from his manager and from him, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not all his manager. He's complicit in this. He's 19. He's an adult. Yeah. 19-year-olds are adults. There's a lot of other 19-year-olds in the game who aren't pulling off these sorts of antics.
Absolutely.
So this whole idea of, he's young. No, I'm not buying it. That's a load of garbage.
I don't think that's an excuse, man.
He's an adult.
Young people do stupid things, but there's so many examples, it's stupider. It's even worse. When you say he's young, because all he has to do is look around the league and see no one else doing it. There's 500 other players in similar circumstances that,
Yeah.
So, that's not an excuse, an acceptable excuse. Really. It's just not. If it was, a common thing, you said, it's just a young dude doing what all the other people are doing, but no one does this.
And look, I think he's mad to what, $6 million, that's a lot of money. Is he aware of how hard it is to buy a house in Sydney?
Yeah.
He could,
Well, he could have bought a studio apartment in Penrith for
$6 million. But I'll tell you what, you know what I mean?
Like, not been able to get a loan.
If he's planning to live the rest of his life in Sydney, which he probably is, if you look at it from that point of view, it's madness as well. You'd take the $6 million, wouldn't you? Even if it is a struggling club, it's still $6 million. That could set him up for life, that money.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Ricky Stuart, ex-Bulldog Ricky Stuart, I don't know how he found a way to be upset after the Raiders managed that amazing comeback yesterday. But of course he found a way to be upset. I don't know what he was trying to distract from this week, if he accidentally didn't realise that the Raiders actually won. That was the one tip I got right, by the way.
Yeah, I got a big fat 0 in the tipping. Unbelievable. Did we all tip the same? Apart from
me and Mitchell
I think
Pearce.
I was the only one who tipped the Warriors.
Yeah,
right?
me and Mitchell Pearce rated
So you two got 1 and I got 0.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I'm catching up. It was a shocking round of football, but Ricky Stewart still found issues with the referees. Yesterday's game.
Yeah, so Ricky Stewart has warned the NRL against punishing players for displaying the aggression in which the game sells itself off. He's not happy because Raiders captain Joe Tarpany was put on report twice against the Warriors. Tarpany was placed on report in the 15th minute for a crusher tackle, and then again he was placed on report in the 75th minute for a shoulder charge. And so then Ricky Stewart was talking about, so he said, the game sells itself off aggression, and he said, the State of Origin's on in a few days' time. So essentially Ricky Stewart saying that the match review committee should overlook crusher tackles and shoulder charges just because State of Origin's on in a few days' time. That's his great argument.
There was 2 crusher tackles over the weekend. One was on Thursday, I think. I can't remember who it was. It didn't look as bad, but I think it got sin bin. But it was put on report, fair enough. The Tarpany one was just a classic, like full Nelson. You know, the thing with the crusher tackle, right, especially with Ricky Stewart being a doofus around it, is the crusher tackle is not a crusher. It's a full Nelson, which is a WWE, WWF wrestling move.
It's a wrestling move.
It is banned in almost all levels of real wrestling or grappling competitions.
Yeah.
You know, it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's banned.
Yeah.
In WWE, it's not, because it's not real. Okay?
Yeah.
That's why it's not. In jiu-jitsu, you're not allowed to do it. Even at the highest level of competition, you're just not allowed to do it, full Nelsons. In wrestling, you're not allowed to do full Nelsons. That's how dangerous it is. And it was fair that did he get sin bin for it? He didn't get sin bin for it. He should have got sin bin for it. And then, I saw news articles talking about, he's going to get suspended for making fun of the fans. That's not why he's going to get suspended. He's going to get suspended because he was put on report twice.
Yeah.
And then he made fun of fans.
What sort of argument is that? Because State of Origin's on in a few days' time, they should just let Tarpany off a crusher tackle and a shoulder charge. It's a nonsense, ridiculous, pathetic argument.
Bring back the shoulder charge, first of all. But just make sure Greg English... The reason the shoulder charge was banned was not... the whole thing around the shoulder charge being banned, right? It was the straw that broke the camel's back was Greg Inglis shoulder charging Dean Young, right? Now, if you go back and look at that one, it was an overreaction because the issue in that wasn't the shoulder charge. The issue in that was the hit was late. Dean Young had already let go of the ball 2 seconds beforehand. He was looking away to see where he had thrown the ball. So his body was completely relaxed because he thought, I'm not going to get hit now. I don't have the ball anymore. Looking the opposite direction, and Greg Inglis hit him set flush in the head, right? It's the high contact and the late hit that are already banned. So they didn't really need to remove the shoulder charge because of that tackle, but they did. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was shocking. It was horrible to watch. But the thing that was illegal at the time was high contact and late. Off the ball, okay? Not the shoulder charge. So, bring back the shoulder charge is my hashtag, all on the hashtags. Hashtag this week, bring back the shoulder charge. But, that said, it's currently illegal. It's against the rules. And you know what? There's a zero tolerance for it. You know the acceptable amount of shoulder charge in a shoulder charge?
Zero.
It's 0. Okay. So, shut up, Ricky. No, you don't go more lenient and make, it's only a 1% shoulder charge. He's only got picograms in his system of shoulder charge. 0 shoulder charge. Crusher has always been illegal. As I said, it's the full Nelson.
And what sort of argument is that? Because Origin's on in a few days, that the NRL should just overlook the crusher tackle and the shoulder charge. So he's saying that in round 1 it should be a crusher tackle and a shoulder charge, but because Origin's on in a few days' time, it's not a crusher tackle or a shoulder charge. It's the most flawed, ridiculous,
it's an Origin tackle.
Just pathetic, hopeless argument.
As we approach Origin, all tackles become Origin tackles. It's not a chicken wing, it's an origin tackle.
It's hopeless.
It's so stupid.
Tarpany wasn't sin bin, but Horsburgh and Starling were sin bin.
But then, because the crowd were booing him, he did the me at them, and then news articles were saying he was going to get suspended for that, but he absolutely isn't. He was acting the goose the whole game. I watched some of it, I had it on in the background. He was acting like a goose the whole game, which is, it's kind of out of character for him. He's not a grub, so it was a little bit weird to see, actually. Is that the heel persona is what he's now trying to embrace? But he went too far. I always talk about, I love the Josh Reynolds and Michael Ennis style of grubby player that skirted that fine line. And Reid Marnie is too far over the line. And it's even hard for Bulldogs fans to defend some of Reid Marnie's antics. They spend
apparently there's word that they're trying to let him go too.
Yeah, because his antics are so they're just because Bulldogs fans have been able to defend Michael Ennis and then Josh Reynolds for years, but even Bulldogs fans can't defend Reid Marnie's antics. And Tarpany was behaving like a Reid Marnie on the weekend, and I think he should have been sin binned. But I don't think you should sanction people. Like I said, the news articles were acting like he's going to be sanctioned because he was making cry motions at the fans, but that's not why. He's going to be sanctioned on report and charged and stuff because of his illegal play. But I don't think that's... It just reminded me of Michael Ennis doing the Viking clap, which is, to me, one of the greatest moments in rugby league history.
Ricky's bagging the refs after the match officials... after they win games.
Yeah.
What hope have they got if the Raiders start losing games?
Well, they are sitting, third on the ladder right now? Second?
I think
they took
just
the
bringing it
Warriors
up here.
Right? Yeah, they took the Warriors spot,
Yeah, they are second now, yeah. So there you go.
Differential.
Yeah, so he's still angry with his team sitting in second spot on the ladder.
Absolutely.
Still not happy. Will he ever be happy?
No. That's Ricky Stuart.
Yeah.
And so then we have some Origin news. The only Origin news there is.
Yes.
Ashley Klein was over at the
4 Points Park.
Yeah,
Manly's
I'm trying to think of the
Brookvale Oval.
Brookvale Oval. And then spent around 20 minutes meeting with Daly Cherry Evans.
Yeah, apparently, they're saying, it was just a catch-up, but I don't like it. I don't think... I'm not saying that anything sinister went on, but I don't think it's a good look.
He's actually confirmed as the ref.
He is, yes.
Ugh.
But that's the thing. So it's just not... The players are not supposed to be friends with the referees. It's just not a good look. They're not supposed to socialise with one another. They really shouldn't see each other other than when they're on the field. Their only relationship should be on the field of play only. It shouldn't extend any further than that. I don't even think players or coaches should even be allowed to talk to the referees. I think the referees should just be...
There is a thing that
separated from them.
I read this just this morning, actually. NRL clubs are allowed to request a referee to attend training. I don't know how many times, right? Just to confirm the players' understanding of the rules. If they're going to allow that, all right, I agree with you. I don't like it at all. No. I don't think that they should have each other's phone numbers. They shouldn't know anything about each other, right? If they're going to allow that, the very least they can do is ensure that a ref that attends training is not the ref that will be refereeing the match that any player is going to be in the next week. If they're going to attend training, Ashley Klein shouldn't be Ashley Klein because he's going to be refereeing Daly Cherry Evans in a week. It's not a good look, and you got to apparently all they did was talk about family and their new kids or whatever and blah 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 blah. But
it's still not a good look.
It kind of implies to me that they're on friendly terms and perhaps they're in a couple of WhatsApp groups together. I'm not saying they are, but that's what it implies to me.
It's one of those things. Again, no suggestion that anything sinister is going on, but it's just not a good look, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen because it's not a good look. And Benny Elias, New South Wales legend Benny Elias, has come out saying that he's not happy about it. And look, I get where he's coming from.
Look, the thing I thought most about it this morning when I was reading it was Benny Elias has come out and said it's not a good look, and everyone's agreed. So former Origin greats or whatever in New South Wales have not liked it. And I just thought in the hypothetical, if the situation was reversed, and Ashley Klein was over talking to Nathan Cleary and having a good old laugh, it'd be Billy Slater in the media saying, I'm going to be sending a please explain to this. That's just what I thought. I thought if the situation, they should think about that. If the situation was reversed, how would you feel? Because it's not a good look at all. It shouldn't happen. Like you said, they shouldn't even speak to each other at all.
No, the coaches, the referees should be put in a they should almost be put so far away, stationed so far away from the players and coaches that they should have no contact with them at any point in time, other than obviously, talking to the captains on the field when they need to. I don't even like that, by the way, but aside from that, like when the game's not on, when they're in the dressing room, the players and coaches should have no contact whatsoever with the referees.
Zero.
Should be banned completely.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And then over the weekend, nobody tipped the Knights.
No.
But the Knights absolutely thumped the Panthers, dropping Panthers back to their 17th spot on the ladder.
Yep, got to be fair about it. The Panthers were missing a lot of stars to Origin.
The Knights were missing 5 players too,
yeah. Isaiah Yeo, Nathan Cleary, Liam Martin, Brian Toto and Dylan Edwards were all missing. And I know Adam O'Brien mentioned that Newcastle had a bunch of players out, but apart from Kalen Ponga, none of them were of that quality. So that's where I get a bit annoyed, where Adam O'Brien says, the Penrith were missing their Origin stars, but we were missing a bunch of players as well. It's like, yeah, but you weren't missing the same quality of players that Penrith were missing. Kalen Ponga was the only player of the quality of those Penrith players who were missing.
Yeah, look, no one thought the Knights would win. Even with all those players missing, that's how bad the Knights have been.
This is the thing, and look, while we're saying that, Penrith, I think they do have an excuse for that game on the weekend. The problem for them is the reality is that those losses count just as much as any other losses. Yeah. There's no asterisk on the ladder that says, but we lost a few games during the Origin period because we didn't have our players. No, it doesn't work like that, and because Penrith have struggled so much to start the season, now they're in a real hole. Now they're coming last.
They have to win 10 games.
So they're 3 wins, a draw, and 7 losses from their 11 games. I'm pretty sure it was... I'm just going to check last year's ladder to double check how many wins the 8th team needed to get into the 8th.
We had last year. We had the year before, actually. I can't remember. Yeah.
Let me have a look. Yeah, so let's just have a look at the ladder last year. Yeah, so Newcastle made the 8 last year, winning 12 games and losing 12, but they only got in on differential. They needed good differential to get in with 12 and 12. So you probably do need 13 wins to get into the 8. And so Penrith need to win now. Well, they've got to draw. So maybe with the draw, that extra point, 12 wins could get Penrith in. But even to win 12, Penrith would need to win 9 games from here. And they've only got 13. Well, they've played 11. So they've got 13 to go. They'd have to win 9 of 13. And mind you, we're only just at the start of the Origin period here. The Origin period's got a long way to go. And they're going to be heavily affected. This is going to be really, really... Again, I can't see them making the 8 now. I think their run is over. It's done. They're done.
I think so too. I think it's not really possible, given that they've still got. Well, look, they have players in their teams that can Kalen Ponga 2023. They've got players in their team that can take them on a 10 game winning streak to get into the finals.
Yeah,
but that's like we talked about that a few weeks ago. Can they do it? Yeah. Will they do it? Probably not.
That's the thing, and they do have buys before the final 2 Origin games. But they may need to rest players after game 2, given that they have a trip to Auckland 3 days later. And that's the thing, it's not just about whether you have the week off before or not. That helps you, but the overall Origin period has an impact. It has an impact on teams who have heavy representation. So the fact that they've started so poorly, throw their huge Origin representation on top of that, they're in a world of pain, and I think there's very little chance they're going to make the 8 this year.
All I know about is that, any team with a Kalen Ponga caliber player, can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? Probably not.
That's the thing, and again, their 2025 team is different to the teams that won in 21, 22, 23, 24, but the players who were a part of those 4 premierships, will the hunger really be there after they come through a grueling Origin period? Will the hunger really be there to just make the 8? And then if they make the 8, they'll only scrape in if they get there. If they just scrape in, it's going to be really hard. I suspect with a lot of those players, the hunger just won't be there.
Yeah, exactly.
It just won't.
They got Eels, Tigers, bye, Warriors, Bulldogs, bye, Parramatta, Rabbitohs, Tigers, Titans, Knights, Storm, Raiders, Bulldogs, Dragons. They got a bunch of easy games.
You just said Storm, Raiders, Bulldogs in 3 straight weeks. But so that's 3 top 4 sides in 3 straight weeks.
They actually have the Bulldogs twice. They have the Storm and they have the Raiders in there. So that's 4. That you wouldn't really think. Yeah, like I said, I think that's the best way to describe it. Can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? Probably not.
Yeah.
Nathan 100%. Cleary, Nathan Cleary could come out of Origin and then carry them through a 13-game winning streak. It's possible.
Yeah.
But so is nonsense things. Yeah. Aliens can land on the White House lawn. It's possible.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's likely.
It'd be hard. I think mentally, it'd be hard for the players who've been part of all the 4 premierships. It'll be hard for them to get up after, especially the ones involved in Origin, coming back from Origin and thinking, "Oh, we've got to win so many games to make the 8, or we've got to win every." By that stage, by the end of the Origin period, they might need to win. They might need to win every game to make the 8 or something like that. It's just whether they have it in them mentally to get up and do that. I just really question that.
Probably.
Yeah.
And in another one, nobody tipped bloody Parramatta because they were missing Mitchell Moses and Manly had Tom Trbojevic in.
Yes.
But Tom Trbojevic has been... I picked him in my Origin team and I'm bloody glad he's not in it at this point because he's had a shocking last few weeks. But he got pumped by the Eels and his stats... I know, you don't want to just look at stats, right? But his stats for the Eels were shocking.
Well, tackle breaks are very important for a player like him. He only had 1 tackle break for the whole game. And look, to be fair, he did have some other reasonable statistics. He ran for 121 metres. Sorry, 161 metres, I should say.
That's not much for a fullback.
He had 20 carries. He had a try assist and a line break assist. But his big strength is his tackle breaks. He only had 1 tackle break for the game. You feel like the lethal Tom Trbojevic of old who won the 2021 Dally M medal, you feel like that player is just not there anymore. You feel like the injuries over all these years have taken their toll and he's just not the player he used to be.
He couldn't even do it for the Eels, who currently have the 2nd worst against in the league. It's not hard to...
Yeah. And he's come back.
I don't want to be too mean to the Eels, but it's not hard to score points against the Eels.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't have Mitchell Moses. I mean,
it's not hard to score points.
That was supposed to be a real opportunity for Manly to win that game.
They don't have the best points for, and they were able to put. What was the score? They put a lot on them. Right?
30-10.
Yeah, 30 points on it. So there was no reason the Eels should have won that game in theory, but they did. They smashed it, and Tom Trbojevic is not playing well.
That's the thing. He's just come back. He came back from an MCL injury in round 8, so he's already suffered another injury this year. If we have a look at, I'm just having a look here at. So he's on 1.2 million a season for this year and next year, right? He's off contract at the end of next year. They really can't be signing him to that money for any longer after that. And if you look at his games by season, right, 2019 he had 12 games. 2020 he had only 7 games. 2021, his Dally M year, he had 18 games. That was better. 2022, only 7 games. 2023, 11 games. More in 2024, played 20 games, but this year only 7 so far. He's had that injury already this year. They're paying huge money for him. He's not on the field enough, and now when he's on the field, we're not seeing the Tom Trbojevic of old here. This is really putting a dent in their salary cap, and can Manly afford to be taking this hit on their salary cap for much longer?
No. And they don't have any new brothers coming through.
No.
Do they have any new brothers? They went from Brett Stewart and Glenn Stewart to Tom Trbojevic and Jake Trbojevic. Do they have a new... Maybe they can finally fix their salary cap issues. Finally. Terry Evans is going. Tom Trbojevic needs a downgrade. Tom Trbojevic getting a downgrade means Jake Trbojevic probably also get a downgrade.
I think Manly, have been allowing this to go on for too long out of sentiment.
Yeah.
And I think they need to sit down and have an honest conversation with each other. And they need to say to themselves, look, if we're going to keep Tom Trbojevic past 2026 when his contract expires, then we've got to be really honest here about what we're prepared to pay him, and they need to set a figure and not go over it. And if he wants more than that, they've got to let him go.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to be paying $1.2 million a season for somebody who's just not on the field enough, and now even when he's on the field, he's not in the form that we're used to from him. And again, Laurie Daly's overlooked him for the Origin side. So people are noticing the decline in his form.
It might not be a bad idea for them to sign him as a centre and buy a fullback. You know, then you have to have less ball.
But you know what? They probably need to, in all honesty, they probably need to say to themselves, he's on $1.2 million a season. By the end of by the time 2027 rolls around, you think about that, another 2 years of injuries. They're sort of looking at, we're not paying this guy any more than $600,000 or $700,000 a year. That's good. Maybe $700,000. That's it.
Good centre money. Good centre money.
Yeah.
You know? Give you $600,000 and we'll move you to the centre.
Given how little he plays,
he might have to defend a little bit more, but still.
But given how little he plays and how many injuries he's had, I wouldn't pay him more than $700,000. No. By 2027, I wouldn't pay him any more than $700,000 a year.
Yeah,
and if he wants more, see you later, Tom.
Yeah, he's not worth it.
No.
Finishing up in rugby league, as I alluded to before, Reece Walsh punches his friends in the head as a game.
Yeah, look, again, it's not... Again, you know, young men, as you know, young men do this sort of stuff. But it's the idea that you would go and post it on social media that's very silly. And look, it wasn't, you know, all right, you know, we're not going to make this...
It wasn't a fight.
We're not going to make this a bigger deal than what it really was. But it's just not a good look, right? It's not a good look, especially for a player who's on a lot of money, hasn't really delivered. You know what? I thought before, Reece Walsh is turning into the new Latrell Mitchell now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. We didn't have Latrell on our thing, but we've got Reece Walsh.
Reece Walsh has become the new Latrell Mitchell. Yeah. Latrell Mitchell seems to have got his act together to a degree.
Thanks, Wayne Bennett.
Reece Walsh is the new Latrell Mitchell. Highly paid, distractions, disruptions, all the time, like this one.
A lot of low light reels. Yeah, well... You know, it's this. The thing with this particular, you know, people on the internet defending him with the boys bill would be boys and all that kind of nonsense, but it just compounds. Like as you talk more about it, okay. First of all, famous people shouldn't record themselves punching their friends in their head. Second of all, Reece Walsh, given his history of idiocy on social media and in the public, shouldn't be filming himself punching in the head. Third of all, the Broncos currently have this issue where they have a reputation of being like a bunch of rock star attitudes that Michael Maguire is trying to change. Compounding onto that. Compounding onto the fact that he's not performing very well. Compounding onto that the fact that, you know, he's paid a lot of money. And on and on and on and on. And it just gets worse because it's Reece Walsh.
And this is the other thing I was going to mention is that, I mean, he still did punch someone in the head with a boxing glove, right? And what I was going to say is... what I was going to say is, like, you might have gone to like parties when you were 15 or 16 where that went on with schoolboys. That never happened when I was 22. My mates wouldn't have done that. At 22, you know, I mean, 22 is young, but it's not that young, right? It's not like he's 15 or 16, right? If he was 15 or 16 in a group of high school boys, I would get it.
To be honest.
But he's 22. Yeah. That wasn't happening between me and my mates when we were 22. Yeah, I don't know about you.
When I was like 15, 16, we'd have like boxing matches.
But not at 22, right?
22.
He's 22.
22, I had a child.
He's not 15.
22, I had a child.
yeah.
So does Reece Walsh, though, you know?
Yeah, he's a father.
It's time to grow up because I had a child. I mean, I didn't grow up well or whatever, but but still.
But you weren't punching someone on, you know. Yeah. I mean, social media might not have been around then, but
no, it wasn't.
But you weren't punching. But you still wouldn't have done that, whether someone's filming it or not.
It's a bizarre thing, and like I said, because like you said, it's Reece Walsh. It just compounds and compounds and compounds. It's worse and worse and worse. There's too many things going against the Broncos and Reece Walsh in particular to be doing this to. And you know, he put it up and then removed it. He's not going to get fined. Boys will be boys. Blah 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 blah. Whatever nonsense people want to justify it. It's just a few mates having a laugh. First of all, bro, you're going to do that. Put a 12-ounce glove They're the biggest ones.
But they just did not need this.
16 ounce, like something big.
The way their season has played out, they just didn't need this.
Yeah, exactly. It's just compounding on that. That's rugby league for the week. Yeah. Origin on Wednesday. Don't miss out. Make sure you play. Origin is now in Smart Play. It does have a few funny. Not funny. We adjusted it a bit because of the irregularities around Origin and the teams. It's not salary. The salaries aren't based on stats. It's just you got $510,000 to spend. Every player is $30,000. So you got your 17 players. You got to pick 5 backs, 2 halves, 3 back rows, 3 front rows, and 4 interchange from the 36 available players.
That's a bargain. You wouldn't get those players for $30,000 in real life.
One game in Origin, That's what we based it on. Yeah. Apparently, the match payment this year is $30,000. So we were like, screw it, we'll just do it that way because it's a bit weird. Like Toya is worth $0 technically because he has no stats. For Origin, right? Yeah. So we had to do it that way, and I've actually made a few teams. I made the New South Wales team, the Queensland team, and I've made my own team.
I'll give you one stat that Toya had. One error, dropping the ball over the line and costing his team the game. Well, there's one stat that he had.
I'm not picking Toya as well. Let me just say. We might get afterwards a statistical breakdown for social media of how many people were picked.
Woke up this morning after 2 hard training sessions. Oh my god, I have so much washing and boy does it sting! But luckily I have Gourami Cleaning Co's Gear Guard, Clear the Funk, proud sponsor of SmartB. I've tried all of the ones that are around and they're the ones that I suggest. They leave my clothes after training smelling like nothing. They don't do this thing where they smell like chemicals or flowers, and they don't advertise themselves as being a washing powder replacement. Instead, you add 1 cupful to your laundry and off you go. Head to GouramiCleaning.co and buy yours now. GearGuard is a proud sponsor of the SmartB Sports Update.
But on to other sports.
Yeah.
Hi Vic, you sent a message and it got passed on to us to talk about Ange Postecoglou making history by bringing some silverware to Tottenham Spurs. Mm-hmm. I think it was 17 years without any silverware. They won the UEFA Europa League.
Yeah.
Sorry, not really sure. There's so many soccer leagues, so I'm not really sure. We had to look it up this morning, what that means or what it is. And I was like, I thought Tottenham played in the EPL. But, but apparently they do that too.
Yeah, one thing that I would point out with this, and again, look, we're not going to claim to be soccer experts here. We very rarely talk about it on this podcast here. But there was an article from Peter Fitzsimons, of all people, with the headline, Ange Postecoglou's success, it's all down to me. Sorry, Peter, we weren't all thinking of you when Tottenham won the Europa League and Ange Postecoglou won the Europa League. I'm sorry, but you weren't the first thought that came into our heads. What a narcissistic article to write that one is.
He wasn't even the 800,000th thought of anybody.
No, sorry, Peter, we weren't all thinking about you when Tottenham won. I'm sorry, you're a former rugby union player and no one in this country cares about rugby union anymore. So now he makes a living out of trying to claim credit for soccer coaches winning European soccer leagues. That's what he's been reduced to now.
Congratulations to Tottenham, though. They won 1-0.
Yeah, well done to them. Yeah, they beat Manchester United 1-0 in the Europa League final.
And Ange Postecoglou famously said at the beginning of the year, I always win in my second year. This was his second year in charge, and he won. And he's still been fired.
Well, I don't think he has actually been fired yet, but there's still a question mark because they've come 17th in the Premier League, and that's their worst top flight finish since 1976-77. So it's a really strange. Yeah. There's a strange dynamic in soccer, isn't there, where you can be going so poorly in the main league, but there's so many other trophies that you can sort of save yourself by winning some other big league.
It's too hard to follow for me.
Yeah.
And also all the games are in the middle of the night, so I can't watch them. Now, the first $1 million has been handed out in qualifiers in preparation for the enhanced game with some German unknown swimmer dude wearing one of those condom suits and fully on the gear, breaking the 50-meter freestyle record. I think he beat it by almost a full second, or maybe slightly under. And Ariana Titmus has come out. A bunch of current swimmers actually have come out and slammed the enhanced games for the ridiculousness of it all. As we've discussed extensively on this podcast, those world records don't count.
Yeah, well, no, that's what look. I'm a big fan of Ariane Titmus. I think she's a superstar, and she's one of the great athletes in Australia today. But she says this, and I quote: "She says this is a bit of a kick in the bum to any athlete who's ever worked their whole life to train." Look, what I don't understand about what Ariane has said here is, look, Ariane, we know that they're on drugs. Okay,
yeah.
it's okay. We're aware. It's okay. We know. It's better to know than to have some cheat in the actual Olympics who we don't know about. I'd rather at least know about it.
I think these swimmers and everyone else coming out, like the actual proper Olympics swimmers and stuff and athletics, there's only 4 events. Gymnastics, athletics, swimming, and I can't remember the other one, but anyway, weightlifting. Coming out and giving it the time of day and like saying criticising it and saying it doesn't count, are kind of like promoting it more. It's just they should actually just ignore it because we know. You know what the acceptable level of wearing a condom suit is in swimming in the Olympics? Zero. Yeah. And even if he wasn't on drugs, he was wearing the. You know why though? You're not allowed to wear those because they give you an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
That's the thing. Like, we're aware. It's okay. But it's not like we're going to go. Oh, the guy who won this event in the enhanced games, his time was better than the people who aren't taking drugs. Oh, what a super. Okay, we know that he's on drugs. We're aware that's the whole idea of the enhanced games.
And so I'm a little bit, I've talked a lot about how, I'm going to watch the enhanced games. I've talked a lot about how, like, I kind of support it based on the fact that, the podcast they talked about all of the drug taking was going to be done through their medical staff. They've actually changed the rules at some point. I didn't know when, that they're allowing 3 types of athletes: fully natural, enhanced through their medical procedures, and then enhanced through independent medical procedures. I don't like that third one because that just means like gym bros injecting steroids, and that's where the danger of all these performance enhancing drugs come into it. Yeah. Also, James Magnuson looks gross right now. He still reckons he's going to break the world record in the actual enhanced games, which is in 2026. But he looks like gross right now. He looks like his body shape is just,
That's the thing. Like, you would advise people against taking part in this. You would, but it's one thing to advise people from taking part in it, and another thing to say that it should be banned altogether. Now, there's doctors who are coming out saying that this should be banned altogether because you could have an increased risk of early death if you take these substances. And then you go, yeah, but if you say that you're going to do that for this, well, then you've got to apply it to everything where there's a risk of early death because of it. As I'll give you, all right, ban all cigarettes because smoking could lead to an early death. Ban alcohol because excessive consumption of alcohol could lead to early death. Ban fast food because excessive consumption of fast food could lead to early death from people. Ban driving on the road because by driving a car, you're a chance of dying in a car crash. If you're going to say that this shouldn't go ahead because there's an increased risk of early death to those taking part, well, then you need to apply it to everything where there's an increased risk of early death.
Ban rugby league then.
Yeah, because that's the thing. There's a difference between advising people against taking part and saying that the whole thing shouldn't happen. As long as these athletes are aware of these risks, I don't have an issue as far as that goes. My only problem is I don't like the message that this sends to kids, to young people, because their brains are not developed yet, their brains are not fully formed yet, and so that they don't have the ability to make an informed decision around this like grown adults have the ability to make an informed decision. They're allowing
independent medical advice as opposed to they're controlling all of it, because independent medical advice honestly is just your bro in the gym telling you what to inject and telling you what to take, and that's where kids will start taking performance enhancing drugs.
That's what worries me.
And kids should, like, if you want to go on the performance enhancing drugs, like, as long as it's not banned in your sport, I never have any issue with it, right? You do what you do, bro. Jiu-jitsu is rife with PEDs.
But maybe, yeah.
Kids, under the age, before they're fully developed, should never, ever, ever take anything. Ever. Because it screws with your development.
So there should be I don't know if there's a minimum age in this.
There is. You have to, but it's basically all retired athletes, man.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a minimum age in this.
And then there is.
Yeah.
But then also, like, the whole thing is, right, if you're going to take performance-enhancing drugs, people I know who take performance-enhancing drugs won't tell people their stack. Because what they do is they say, go get bloods, and with medical advice, here is a doctor who will help you do it. There are some doctors out there who will help you understand what PEDs you should take, or, you can more safely take. Not safely take, more safely take. For your specific stack, dosages, all that kind of thing, right? And the one person you don't want to get this advice from is your gym bro. Because all of these performance-enhancing drugs, when you go to the hospital and you have to, for example, get surgery and you have to get anesthesia, they want to know your height, weight, BMI, everything. Because the anesthesiologist does a mathematical calculation based on that to inject you with the perfect amount so you don't die. That's actually so you don't die.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing that you do with these performance-enhancing drugs, right? You go to a doctor, do your bloods. I know some places you can go. I'm not going to name them because, don't want kids doing it. They'll tell you what dosages are safe to take. There are places you can get them, all right? There's even a controversy right now around creatine, which has been deemed safe since, 1996 or some crap like that, where it was unbanned, in which one of the issues with creatine, which you can buy over the counter, and it's suggested for everyone who lifts weights to take. I don't take it. It's actually, anecdotally, I found no effect. Where it's just 3 to 5 milligrams for everyone, okay? Every day, 3 to 5 milligrams for, except if you're doing a loading phase or whatever, and you take twice as much. Now I've got a guy at my gym who's 50 kilos, and I'm 100 kilos. How can it be that we both take 5 milligrams?
Yeah.
It's nonsensical to me, and that's why, one of my other mates told me he really highlighted that to me, and then I was like, yeah, I'm fully not going to take this creatine anymore. It has had no effect, whether I take it or not, zero effect.
Yeah.
And so that, because one of the other mates said to me, he highlighted this to me, how can you have two people, same weight, take the same amount? And then he was like, also, just go try lifting weights without, and you'll see the exact same progression. And I did. And I was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the athletes who compete in this, because sponsors aren't going to want to touch this. So
Well,
it's
great sponsors.
It's just going to be athletes who've had it with Klein competing, and they're trying to make some extra money.
Well, they're retired.
Yeah.
And you notice the events are the ones that people don't make millions of dollars on. If you don't win gold at the Olympics, you don't make millions of dollars from swimming. And so it's guys who have finished their Olympics.
That's the thing, that leaves a lot of people out in the cold, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the one main thing that I did an article about it, actually, the enhanced games.
Yeah, I saw your article. That's why I put it on.
One thing I really wanted to highlight about it as well is I fully support it because every athlete will be paid by the enhanced games. 0 athletes are paid by the Olympics. The people who make the most money in the Olympics are the IOC.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. And no, if I was an athlete, I wouldn't do Olympic sports because there's no money in it because you don't get paid. Countries pay for medals. There was some funny thing this year I saw a meme about. I don't know how much truth there was to it, but if it was if you're a Singaporean and you win a gold medal, you get it was 180,000 Singaporean dollars and a house. This kind of thing. Countries can give whatever they want, but yet they were all medal based, right? And there's too much, in the enhanced games where all athletes who qualify will be paid for their accommodation and their flights. There's too many athletes in the Olympic Games that have to pay for their own flights, the flights of their coaches, their accommodation.
Yeah, and they stay in an Olympic village that's terrible conditions. There were all sorts of problems at the last Olympics.
That's why one of the major things about the enhanced games that is actually really disruptive that you want to see. But athletes should be paid to compete, and the Olympics is a joke in that they legitimately generate billions of dollars in revenue every 4 years or whatever, billions of dollars, and the athletes see 0 of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
one of the Olympics recently, they found out the medals weren't even gold, and they started to fade after a week, and they had to be replaced.
Yeah, well, there you go. Look, the thing is, at least this is honest. We all know the Olympics aren't clean. At least At least this is upfront, this is honest, you know what you're watching. You know what they say about Olympic athletes now, that the only difference between Olympic athletes and Hollywood actors is that you know the Hollywood actors are acting. And, you know, that's the thing. How many athletes have won Olympic gold medals on drugs and have not been picked up? It'd be a huge number, unfortunately. At least this is honest. At least we know that they're all juiced up, and there's honesty about this that doesn't exist in the Olympics anymore.
Exactly. French Open started though.
Yes.
Yay! There's been heaps of controversy. I've been watching it, watching the controversy. That's the thing I may care about most. But the Aussies, they're all out, right?
Yeah, so the 3 Aussies took part in day 1 action. Rinky Hijikata, Destiny Ayava and Tristan Schoolkate. And they all lost on day 1, so that's disappointing. All 3 Aussies in action on day 1 going out. Disappointing start. Hopefully we get better results as the tournament's gone on. Again, we're only at the end of day 1. There's a long way to go here. By the time our next podcast is on, we'll have a lot more results to look at.
See the issue with Zverev's match?
He played last night, did he?
I think so. Or was it in the tournament beforehand?
Let's check it out.
No,
he hasn't played yet. So it might have been the Hamburg Open you're talking about.
Yeah, that was it.
Lost in the round of 16.
Yeah, there was an issue.
Lightning struck.
There was a massive issue at that event in the with the Hawkeye, the line thingies.
Yeah.
He got I don't normally support these tennis players having big tantrums, but I fully supported his one. A call was called in, and then it showed that, technology, computer, and the ball was on the line, and he was begging a referee to come and look at the mark. The mark,
yeah.
Because it's like this far away from the line. So he pulled his phone out and took a photo of it, and he got a what's it called, a warning for having his phone during a match.
Right, okay.
But they just wouldn't look at it, and apparently it was like heaps of time throughout that Open.
So I'm guessing it was probably because he didn't have any challenges left.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it's the only sport, I know there was an issue there, it's the only sport where the use of technology has worked.
Yeah.
Because it's a black and white result, in or out, and it's done very quickly. 5 seconds, we look at it, bang, done, we move on. The only sport in the world where use of technology has worked. In every other sport, it's been a blight on sport. I think
the issue there is there's calibration that needs to be done, and it clearly wasn't calibrated because it was out by a good 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So you only get a certain number of challenges. I think it might be 2 or 3 in each set. And I'm guessing he just didn't have any challenges left. And so the umpires had to just make a call and made the wrong call, and he's had no challenges left.
The technology showed that it was in, but it really, really wasn't.
And that's not the only drama for him. Apparently lightning struck his flight to Paris ahead of the French Open as well. So you talk about controversy, there's been a bit for him there.
But Novak Djokovic has finally broken his duck.
Yes, he's won his 100th.
Duck, but
But he's won his 100th title. He was waiting for it. And good on him. I'm glad that he got there. Well done. Played a marathon 3 hours plus match against Hubert Hurkacz and won 5-7, 7-6, 7-6. He joins Jimmy Connors and Roger Federer as the only players with 100 tour titles or more.
Well done, Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
Let's see how you go in the French Open.
Yeah.
When's he playing?
Let me just have a look at that. Let's have a look.
It's so hard to spell his name.
So he's playing against Mackenzie McDonald of the United States tomorrow night.
7 p.m. time. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm
not sure because they haven't done the schedule for tomorrow night yet. That's a
Google one.
Yeah, that time could be a lot later. I'd suspect because it'll be one of the main matches. I suspect it'll be much later than that. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Of course, he's just ditched Andy Murray as his coach, so we'll see how Novak Djokovic goes. But anyway, well done to him winning that Geneva Open.
Yeah, 100%.
And let's see if he can win number 25 at the French Open, eh?